You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Noong 2022 hanggang kalagitnaan ng 2025, inilaan ng gobyerno ang mahigit 545 billion pesos para sa halos 10,000 flood control projects, ayon sa investigasyon ng Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism. Sa 2024 lamang, naitala ang 244 billion pesos na budget para sa flood control. Pero sa kabila ng ganitong kalaking pondo, taon-taon ay nananatiling problema ang matinding pagbaha mula Metro Manila hanggang probinsya. Ang tanong, kung daan-daang bilyong piso na ang nailabas, bakit patuloy pa rin ang pagbaha? Bakit hindi pa rin natin masolusyonan ang problema?
Magandang araw, ako po si Lilian Tiburcio, Puma Podcast, and joining us today is Glenn Banaguas, a world-renowned science diplomat and multi-awarded scientist whose pioneering work spans environmental stewardship, climate change mitigation and adaptation, and disaster risk reduction. He is also a recipient of the UN Sasakawa Award for Disaster Risk Reduction. He is also the founder of the Environmental and Climate Change Research Institute. Alam niyo po, kung pag-uusapan din natin ng kanyang educational background, talaga naman po nakakabilib because he studied climate change and energy at Harvard Kennedy School, sustainability leadership at Yale University, and so on. And joining us today is Glenn Banaguas. Glenn, welcome to the podcast and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi, magandang araw sa iyo, Lilian. Magandang araw sa ating mga tagapakinig. Good morning po.
Okay, let's talk about the issue of flood control projects. Alam po natin na ito po yung laman ng balita for the past weeks. And dahil tag-ulan na naman po, no, marami sa ating mga kababayan ang paulit-ulit na apektado nitong pagbaha. And we noticed na kahit yung mga lugar na hindi po binabaha dati, is talagang binabaha na rin po ngayon. So, Mr. Glenn, no, why do we still experience severe flooding despite the billions allocated to flood controls project here in the Philippines? As we all know, the country spent 545.64 billion pesos.
Napakaraming dahilan kung bakit patuloy tayong binabaha. Una, we really have to check ano ba talaga nangyari sa mga areas na na dating binabaha, na dating hindi binabaha, na ngayon binabaha na. No, sa amin kasing mga climate scientists, we always consider the historical background. I mean, the historical analysis, what happened to that particular area before, what is happening right now, and what's going to happen in the future. So, scientifically, so ang ginagawa namin, for example, in terms of rainfall temperature, what happened to that area before? Yung, ano ba yan? Nakaka-experience ba siya ng increasing amount of rainfall or increasing amount of temperature? Tapos, how are you going to compare the changes nowadays? Now, this is mga areas na pinupuntahan namin. Just to give you an example, marami kaming napuntahan dito sa Pilipinas, hindi lang sa Metro Manila, at ginawa namin, gumagawa kami ng research para makita namin kung totoo talagang nagbabago ang klima, yung tinatawag nating climate change. And based on the interview, ito yung mga evidence, all right, interview sa mga tao, sa mga tao, sila sabi nila na dati hindi binabaha yung kanilang lugar, pero ngayon binabaha na. Dati hindi sila nakaka-experience ng ganung kalakas na ulan, pero ngayon nakaka-experience ng ganung kalakas na ulan, ng malakas na ulan. So anong ibig kong sabihin? It only means that there are changes na that are happening in different areas. And these changes are sometimes are not included dun sa tinatawag nating mga comprehensive land use plan sa local government units, yung sa mga tinatawag na comprehensive development plan. Now, as part of the solution is we really want to make sure that, for example, once we assess a certain area, that pag may changes na katulad ng pagbabaha, we want to make sure that every single aspect or every single scenario is addressed. So titignan mo lahat. Titignan mo yung drainage system, yung ginamit bang drainage system before, ito ba yung luma na? Kasi kadalasan yung nagiging issue kasi yung mga drainage system noon, hindi na siya applicable sa drainage system ngayon dahil nga sa pagbabago, yung because of the amount of rainfall na nararanasan ngayon. So you also have to check yung climate change, like what I said, yung in terms of rainfall and temperature, yung precipitation na dati ito yung ulan pero ngayon mas marami ng ulan na hindi na kayang accommodate ng ano ng yung ng isang sistema. So these are just some of the reasons why we're experiencing flooding. So tapos sabi ko nga 'di ba sa ibang mga areas na napupuntahan natin, may mga areas na dati binabaha na pero ngayon hindi na sila binabaha, lubog na. So yung mga ganong areas. So in the Philippines, there are areas, like what I said, there are areas that um ang naging na-experience nila flooding, yung iba naman na-experience drought, so iba't ibang climate hazards. So hindi pag porket sinabing flooding, so lahat buong Pilipinas binaba, hindi. So every area in the Philippines experiences different types of climate hazards.
Okay, sir, na-mention nyo nga po na malaking factor po talaga itong climate change po, no? Dito sa nararanasan natin po pagbaha. But we also noticed for the past weeks, ito po yung laman po talaga ng balita. Kumbaga, ang sinasabi po na solusyon dito sa baha na nararanasan natin ay ito pong flood control projects. And we all know, ang laki po ng budget na inalat po ng government po natin dyan. And it's just so sad na a portion of it, like 20% of it, is napunta lang po talaga sa 15 contractors. And if you remember din po, sir, no, the Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH, it has been criticized over and over because of the lack of national or integrated flood control master plan. Yan po yung parang lagi po nilang binabanggit eh. And wala daw po tayong, yun nga po, yung integrated National Flood Control Master Plan. Do you think, sir, itong sinasabi nilang ito po ba yung masasabi nating solusyon dun sa problema sa bahay, especially po dito sa Metro Manila, na napansin po natin na talagang patuloy na naapektuhan po yung ating mga kababayan, na peperwisyo po yung kanilang kabuhayan, maraming stranded, ayun nga po, and marami din yung mga hindi pa binabaha before, binabaha na rin po.
Oh, tama ka diyan, TDR. Well, yung tinatawag nating mga national, yung mga master plan, meron na yan even before ginawa na yung ibang mga scientists, ibang mga architects, mga urban planners. Meron na sa Metro Manila. Well, the only difference is that um, well, this is just my guess. So probably they did not include climate change analysis or climate science in their study. So before siguro wala pang climate change analysis dun sa mga master plan na yan. Okay, another thing, this is really very good para in order to move forward dun sa mga nararanasang pagbaha. Well, tinitignan ko siya in a angle of being not just a climate science but as a environmental scientist. So we really have to check paano ba nagkaroon ng flood control projects. All right? So tignan natin. It's like you're doing a life cycle analysis of a certain product. So tignan mo siya from conceptualization to the approval, the implementation of the project. So for instance, it's a flood control project. Maririnig mo sa iba't ibang news, walang nagbabanggit ng mga environmental impacts ng mga flood control projects na yan. Itong flood control projects, they are mga infrastructure projects, they need to undergo environmental impact assessment o EIA. As a EIA na yan, nandun yung meron siyang checklist, nandun yung scoping, nandun yung screening, nandun yung baseline assessment ng mga ng study, nandun yung tinatawag natin public participation o stakeholders engagement, nandun yung tinatawag na environmental management plan, merong monitoring. Now, sa environmental impact assessment, yung mga proponents, all right, for example, yung mga proponents, sinasabit nila itong environmental impact statement na to sa DENR, sa Department of Environment and Natural Resources, in order to get an environmental compliance certificate. Without the ECC, you cannot move on. So kaya pag may nagsasabi na ano ba itong mga flood control projects to, marinig mo sa mga news, di ba marinig tayo na walang participation daw yung mga tao, hindi alam ng mga tao. Doon sa environmental impact assessment, that's part of the checklist. Kasama yan. Na you cannot perform a certain project without talking to the public, to the stakeholders. So hindi mo sila ini-inform but you need to conduct series of consultations in order to get their buy-in. Tapos yun, the science part of it is you really have to conduct a baseline study. Kung meron kang project, since it is a flood control project, so baseline study, ano yung tatamaan, sino yung mga taong tatamaan ng project na yan. So tapos kasama din yung yung mga flora, fauna, everything will be included kaya tinatawag natin baseline assessment. So you'll be needing experts. You need a biologist, you need an expert sa water quality, kasi di sa flood control. You need also an expert sa, kunyari, pati sa mga noise. So noise, kasi ginagawa yung maingay. So there's a environmental impact doon sa mga taong matatamaan. So the most, another thing is, meron ka tinatawag na environmental management plan or monitoring plan na kapag nag-identify mo yung negative impact ng isang flood control project, meron ka dapat mitigation at meron kang solution. At nakalagay yun, nakapaloob yun sa environmental impact statement. So hindi kung mapapansin mo sa mga news, sa mga binabalita, sa mga sagot, walang walang nagbabanggit ng tinatawag nating environmental compliance certificate. We really have to check the documents that were submitted to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Ito yung lagi kong sinasabi kasi it's a flood control project. Kung flood control project yan, definitely you need a full-blown EIS, Environmental Impact Statement. Pangalawa, yung let's check itong mga na-approve na projects na to, di ba, mababanggit, ma-relate natin sa iba't ibang klaseng news. Ghost project yan. My point there is, may it be a ghost project or a real project, it underwent, they were able to get an approval. So the question there is, ano yung sinabit mo? What documents did you submit? Who got these documents, who evaluated these documents, and who approved these documents? Because these projects will not be implemented without the approval of a certain entity. And that's the reason why we need to check these particular documents para, pag meron palang gaps dun sa documents, hindi pala siya nagawa ng tama. So in order to move forward, these have to talk about, you really have to talk about it so that yung mga gaps and constraints na yan ma-address sa mga susunod na mga flood control projects. So ngayon, if you ask me, bakit patuloy tayong binabaha, let's evaluate ano ba yung sinubmit sa Department of Environment and Natural Resources. How were they able to get that ECC or Environmental Compliance Certificate? Because without the ECC, you won't be able to implement or to construct a certain project either in Metro Manila or province. So yun lang naman.
Okay, sir, talking about environmental impacts din, no? So, isa rin sa mga solusyon na ginagawa ng pamahalan, itong dredging by its nature, it is a reactive intervention. Why it is considered as insufficient or unsustainable and ecologically disruptive when deployed as a primary strategy?
Kasi, in different areas, meron kasing mga dredge ka ng dredge. Hindi mo alam na nasisira na yung ecological balance ng isang ecosystem. So, and that's the reason why, I'm not saying that I'm against, but if they can come up with a better solution, such as NBS or nature-based solution, why don't we do it? Diba? Why don't we apply it instead of dredging? So for example, kung yung area is laging binabaha, so why don't you plant, for instance, mangroves, all right? You just have to identify if these particular mangroves are, kasi may mga tinatawag ng male and female species. Hindi ka pwedeng magtatanim lang ng mangroves, di ba? Kasi magtanim ka ng mangroves, yung mangroves pa lang itanim mo, the species that don't live there. So I mean, and that's the reason why you have a scientist, someone who will explain to you the proper solution or the right solution to address this particular dilemma. So, that's one example. So, yun nga, nabanggit ko nga yung mangroves. Kasi kung lagi bumabaha, so why don't you apply this NBS? And that's only one of the solutions. And there are tons and tons of solutions, a plethora of solutions to address this problem.
Mm-hmm. Sir, since we've been talking about yung iba na nga po yung mga project before, it might be not applicable now in our generation, or let's say yung lalo na po ang Metro Manila, sabihin natin ito po talaga yung isa sa mga lugar na binabaha din. But you also had this statement that can we associate this with the decades of poor decision po na nangyari for the past years, or for the decades of poor decision when it comes to making a solution for this problem that we have?
Yes, I can say that um, probably before the decision that they made was right and was not poor. Because if we evaluate that kind of decision that they did or that they had before, I would say that nowadays, if I compare that kind of decision, I would say that well, probably they did not consider science in their study. So if lalo na climate change or climate science, that's why I kept on telling everyone, I kept on writing na you really have to integrate science in all your study. May it be a master plan. Now, sa Pilipinas, it's not just a master plan. There's some mga areas na pinupuntahan namin, there are different there are so many action plans. For example, you have the comprehensive land use plan, the comprehensive development plan. You also have the CIDRA or climate disaster resilient action plan at meron ka pang tinatawag na local climate change action plan and local disaster reduction and management plan. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Sobrang daming action plans and what we need to do is not just to integrate your climate change adaptation, disaster reduction management in all these plans, all right, para ma-enhance yung mga plans na yan, which, they really need. And kung mapapansin mo, sa Pilipinas, mapapansin natin, only few, all right, probably less than 30%, were able to integrate the climate change adaptation and disaster reduction management plan to their what? To their CLOPs, to their CDPs or comprehensive development plan. And every local government unit has it. They are required to do that. At nasa batas yun na kailangan i-enhance yung kanilang comprehensive land use plan or CLUPs. And part ng mga master plans na yan, part ng mga projects na gagawin mo, you really have to consider yung mga tinatawag natin CCADRM, katulad ng binabanggit ko nga kanina, climate adaptation, disaster reduction management studies. Kasi yun na yung yun na yung kailangan sa panahon na ngayon. Kasi dati kung hindi siya naka-include, nowadays you really have to include or else patuloy at patuloy kang babahay lalo kung yung area mo pala talaga very at risk from the different types of climate hazards.
Okay, sir. You've been pushing science-based policy making now, including na rin po dito sa problem natin with the flood here in the Philippines. So you train scientists in integrating science into policy making. And of course, you also give advices to government agencies, academic, even was a private sector, no? So what are the challenges you have encountered? Because some people don't understand the language of scientists, the ordinary people, sometimes hindi po nila maintindihan. And let's say you will share that to our leaders. Sa mga nakaupo po ngayon, sometimes it's also hard for them to understand it. Like, of course, we all know what happened. Not all our leaders are really, let's say, confident and at the same time really eager to understand this. So, ano po yung challenges? Lalo na po ngayon, no, binabanggit po ninyo dito yung science-based policy making sana na i-incorporate, integrate ito sa kanilang mga plano.
Yeah, tama ka dyan. It's really hard. Sometimes they don't want to believe. Alright, science. Sabihin pa nila, naku Glenn, mahal yan kasi pag may science daw, mahal. Sabi ko, ano ba mas importante? Yung gawin mo ng tama o yung gawin mo ng tama o yung makakamura ka pero nakaka-apekto sa pamumuhay ng mga tao. So, yun yung mga ganun, yun yung mga laging question. Sabi ko, well, when I created Environment and Climate Research Institute, this is about my program, the Climate Smart Philippines Science per Service. So ito yung nanalo sa United Nations sa CAO Award for Disaster Reduction. So I didn't know, I wasn't expecting that I would win it. I would be considered in 2022. So siguro natuwa sila. Yung Climate Smart Philippines, tatlo kasi siya. Number one, it applies multi-stakeholder participatory mechanism. Ibig sabihin, kapag meron kang gagawing proyekto sa isang lugar, so you need to interview key stakeholders. You need to interview the governor, the vice governor. You need to interview the mayor, the vice mayor. You need to interview the academe. You need to interview the private sector. Of course, yung impacts and risks din ng mga local communities, mga farmers, fishermen, indigenous people. Kailangan na maintindihan nila kung ano yung gagawin mong proyekto sa lugar. Now, kasi without their buy-in, nothing. The project is not it's not gonna go somewhere. So without their buy-in, for example yung gagawing project, meron pala siya sa ancestral domain, mga indigenous people. So kailangan mo pa ng another permit, which is the FPIC, the free prior informed consent. So without the free prior informed consent, gaano man kaganda ang projects mo, without the buy-in from the tribal leaders, you won't be able to push through, or you won't be able to create that particular project. Now that's one. The application of multi-stakeholder participatory mechanism. Number two, it's Climate Smart Philippines is actually science and evidence based. We want to make sure na hindi natatapos sa interview. That's where we use science to provide them the information. For example, ginagamit namin yung TRIP framework sa ECCRI. T yung tracking assessment. Ito yung binanggit ko nga kanina na we want to, if you really want to understand what happened to the area, you go to the area. Ito yung rainfall and precipitation. So, dati ba inuulan ka? How are you going to ngayon inuulan ka pa ba? Kung dati di ka inuulan, inuulan ka. Tapos in terms of temperature, ito yung temperature natin before, next after 5 years, 10 years, ano yung temperature sa lugar? Uminit ba o lumamig? Now, the other one is risk. That's very, very significant. Risk is a form of can be estimated as using your hazard, exposure, vulnerability. Doon sa mga areas na yan, kailangan malaman mo ano yung mga na-experience na climate hazards doon sa area. Tropical cyclones, or in a more layman's manner, we call it typhoons. Tapos flooding, binahaba-haba. Next yung drought, sea level rise. So these are the different types of climate hazards that have to be taken into consideration. Now yung E, because it's hazard, exposure, vulnerability, yung E yung exposure. Exposed, gaano karaming taong exposed dun sa mga climate hazards na to. So, at sino ba yung mga exposed? So, you still have to identify all of them. Tapos, in terms of vulnerability, ang ginagamit natin yung poverty incidence at bawat area, bawat probinsya at saka local government, meron tayong tinatawag na poverty incidence. So pag pinagsama-sama mo yan, hazard, exposure, vulnerability, ma-identify mo na kung ano yung level ng risk dun ng isang community. So yun lang. Tapos important number 3, yung impact. What are the impacts of this particular project? Who are going to benefit from this project? Tapos yung P, tawag namin doon is policy, yung plan, project, and policy. We want to make sure na yung projects na gagawin mo doon sa lugar, they will really address the needs of the people on the ground. Kasi what is the use na meron kang project pero hindi man pala na-address niya yung totoong problema sa baba. So it's just a waste of time, waste of energy, and waste of money also. So just to give you an example, meron tayong lugar, province, I'm not going to mention the name of that particular province. Then the governor mentioned, Sir Glenn, this is what we want to implement in a certain area in my province. Sagot ko, ay, are you sure? So, syempre, kabiruan. Sabi ko, are you sure? Sabi ko, no, I am not gonna do it. Sabi ko sa kanya. So, I know how to say no na dati, hindi ka mag-no, di ba? So, ngayon, you learn how to say no. Sabi ko, hindi pwede. You have to conduct needs assessment in this area. What is the need? Or what are the needs of your people? Kasi meron ka, maganda nga yung programa mo, maganda yung proyekto mo, pero kung hindi na-address yung needs ng mga tao, baliwala yan. It's nothing. So, ganun. So, yun mga yun. So, yun. Tapos, the last one, sa Climate Smart Philippines, it's people-centered. Importante yung tao. It's importante talaga yung tao. Bakit? Kasi, no matter how technical your works are, no matter how good their project is, but if there's no involvement, all right, if there's no stakeholder engagement, it's nothing. So sa ginagawa namin, hindi lang namin tinitignan yung biophysical, tinitignan mo rin yung socio-economic assessment ng mga tao. Yung, kunyari, farmers, fisher folks. Yan, yung farmers, kapag in-implement ng project na ito, titignan mo yung kikita ba siya or hindi, ano yung maging epekto sa kanyang pamumuhay. The same thing with the fisher folks. Now, ito yung maganda na wala dun sa iba mga organization. We look at the psychological impact assessment. Why? We want to know the level of trauma, di ba? Trauma, depression, anxiety. Kailangan kasi ito sa kailangan kasi ito sa mga assessment kasi maya, di ba? Remember in 2000 13 when Super Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda made its landfall, ang dami-daming taong naapektuhan, may mga namatay. So, isa sa mga lumalabas sa resulta, yung level ng trauma, depression, anxiety. So, ang ginagawa namin, I'm not a psychologist, but there's a psychologist in my team. Siya yung nag-assess yung tinatawag ni post-traumatic growth. And this is what we found out. If you have been experiencing different types of hazards, if you are exposed to this, ibig sabihin your post-traumatic growth is high. Sa mataas. Pero pag first time mo, your post-traumatic growth is low. So yun. And another one is yung religiosity. Tayo mga Pilipino, we're very religious in nature, and we found out in all our assessments, in all our projects na they pray every time there's a disaster, and that's really very significant kasi that's part of the resiliency. If na ang sagot nga nila sa mga ano namin, sa mga tanong namin, na the reason why they were able to survive was because of their faith. And that's the reason why the faith is a coping mechanism to address also the impacts and risks of climate change. Yun lang. Sorry, I've been talking too much.
No, it's okay, sir. Ang ganda po ng mga shinare mo sa amin, no? Lalo na po, nabanggit nyo kanina na napaka-importante talaga yung participation ng mga tao, especially on the ground. Kasi, of course, our leaders, they don't really go on ground sometimes, no? Um, Katulad po ninyo mga scientists na talagang pinupuntahan po ninyo yung kahit malalayong lugar just to ask them to do research, to interview them, and you've been traveling around the Philippines. But what did you also observe in terms of the solutions po? Is it really the same or may kanya-kanya rin talagang approach when it comes to addressing the climate hazards or problem?
Yeah, may kanya-kanya talaga kasi you also have to consider the culture. So you cannot just go there and tell them what they should do. So minsan very careful kami diyan, lalo na pag ang kausap mo mga IPs, indigenous people. So they have their own indigenous knowledge that we really have to respect that. Now another thing is we don't just interview, right? We also train and capacitate them. So, binabalikan mo yung mga areas. For example, natapos na yung studies mo, tapos natapos na yung project, ano ba maging impact ng project sa kanila. So, you have to go back because we have to train, capacitate them how these particular problems are going to be addressed. So, part of it is, to inspire them that na ito yung sinasabi mo nga tanong mo kanina na ano ba yung challenge kung natututo ba sila or hindi, kung na-address ba sila ng tama. Yung mga tao minsan, Glenn, we're not scientists, hindi kami katulad mo. So mga gano'n. So hindi kami, paano namin gagawin yan? So we train and we capacitate. So kasama yan, it's a 4-day, it's a 5-day training program. At kasama sa training programs na yun is yung paano mo ibababa sa kanila, paano mo ituturo sa kanila yung tinatawag nating climate change or climate science muna. So we try to communicate. Itinatawag namin mga science diplomacy program na science there. You really get parang you really have to communicate your work. You really have to communicate science in such a way that these people will really understand this particular scientific knowledge. Hindi yung you're not going to use highfalutin words because you're there not to impress, but you're there to inspire people to love science and of course to integrate science to their plans and to their decision making.
Kanina, nabanggit na po ninyo yung resiliency. Filipinos are known for being resilient. We rise above calamity with courage and unity. Kahit ano yung sakuna or trahedya ang dumating, nagagawa pa rin natin ngumiti eh. But for some people, parang nakakapagod na yung paulit-ulit na sitwasyon na parang hindi tayo natututo, lalong-lalo na itong nararanasan nating baha. And I want to share that the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction points out that resilience should mean more than just enduring. It's about adapting, preparing, and minimizing the impact of future challenges. So is it about time to stop, or should we stop glorifying or romanticizing Filipino resiliency? Kasi for some people, they see it as an image of survival at the expense of demanding more from those in power, from our leaders.
Yes, it's really true. Well, because we have that kind of culture sa Philippines na Yeah, problema ngiti tayo, ngingitian mo lang kahit namomroblema ka ngiti ka pa rin. So, it's also about time not to change that particular culture. Though we do have that, but it's also about time to change it. Meron nga akong ginawang article, why is it a recurring hazard? Bakit hindi pa rin tayo natututo up to now? Paulit-ulit na lang. Parang yung baha na yan, noon pa binabaha na yung Pilipinas, ngayon binabaha pa ulit. What is the problem? What is the root cause of this particular problem? So I mentioned in that article all the reasons na bakit ulit-ulit nating nararanasan itong mga disasters na to. Hindi lang yung plan, hindi lang yung desisyon, hindi lang yung mga projects. Kasi una-una, wala. Parang nakakalimutan natin na may nangyaring bagay na hindi maganda. At pag nakalimutan, wala na. Bumabalik-balik pa rin tayo sa ugali natin na, ay okay na yan, makakaraos din naman eh. So lilipas din yan. Which is dapat hindi ganoon, hindi ba? Dapat hindi ganoon. Dapat na maging prepared ka na what are we gonna do if this particular hazards happen again? Hindi yung we know how to do it kasi we experienced that before. No, cannot be. Kung before, baka may namatay na 10, baka sa susunod may namatay na 20. Ang tanong is, kailangan pa ba may mangyaring sakuna o kailangan pa ba may mangyaring masama bago natin ma-realize na sa yung ugali na bahala na, okay na yan, makakasurvive naman, resilient naman tayo. And it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, like what I said, and I've been telling this to everyone, we really have to have a focus. I mean, behavioral change. It's about behavioral change. It's about us, to think that, kung ito yung naging decision natin before, let's make sure na these problems, once we encounter them, you're going to address it much better, and we're going to adapt much better. So, ibigay mo nga yung much better, yung mga adaptive capacities. So, yung mga ganung bagay, we just want to what? We just want to have a behavioral change. At kailangan talaga yun to change the focus and to change the approach pagdating sa mga problema nito.
Lalo-lalo na po ngayon, sir. Kanina pa natin pinag-usapan yung mga lugar na dating hindi naman binabaha. Ngayon, binabaha na rin po, no? Pero yung ating mga kababayan, sige, makakaraos pa rin tayo. Ayan. Pero for some people, kumbaga, nagigising na rin po sila na parang they don't want to suffer anymore. They don't want to experience the same, severe flooding. It's just so sad na with all those flood control projects that we have is nandun din po yung problem with the corruption, and ngayon like 20% of the budget for flood control projects po ay napunta dun sa 15 contractors, and ito talaga yung parang mas lalong nagpapagalit din sa ating mga kababayan, sa mga taxpayer, dahil po sa anomaly or corruption na nangyayari. And unfortunately, tayong mga ordinary people, yung mga talagang napeperwisyo dito po sa ating baha and iba pa pong mga sakuna na nangyayari po sa atin. So, you said nga po, Sir Nar, siguro it's about time to be more wise, or we should really learn from the past, from our mistakes or from those experiences that we have.
Yeah, use of flood control. Sabi ko nga, if I will be given the chance to advise the president, kasi iba pinakita niya yung 15 contractors. Sabi ko, well, it was a fantastic initiative na meron palang 15 contractors. Pero we also have to look at, ano ba yung mga projects na ito? Di ba? Parang meron kang checklist, di ba? Katulad binanggit ko kanina. Okay, ito mga 15 contractors. Ako kasi if I look at it, if I'm going to advise the president, tignan muna natin, aside from the projects, ano yung mga areas kung saan gumawa ng projects ng mga 15 contractors na ito. Tapos pangalawa, 15 contractors lang ba? We know na maraming mga contractors And then you categorize it. So, anong ibig ko sabihin? So parang binanggit ko kanina dun sa hazard, di ba? For example, pag sinabi natin tropical cyclones, anong mga areas o mga provinces ang nakaka-experience ng hazard ng tropical cyclone? You rank. Anong mga provinces nakaka-experience ng baha? You rank. So iba-iba yan, nagba-vary depending on the category. So the same thing with these 15 contractors. So i-categorize natin. Itong 15 contractors to or more, kung marami mga contractors, let's categorize. anong mga projects to at saan mga flood control projects to? Kasi there are so many types of flood control projects. Next column, gaano kalaki yung binigay na pondo sa kanila. Next column, anong administration. Next column, sino nag-approve. Next column, ano yung mga documents na sinubmit. So, et cetera. So, doon natin malalaman kung saan ba nagkaroon ng gap, kung bakit ah, nag, kung bakit nagkaroon ng ghost project, kung bakit nagkaroon ng project, paano siya na-implement. So, at least kung may checklist, kung naka-category, kung naka-category yung pag-identify sa mga contractors na yan, so din natin ma-identify on how we're going to move forward. Kasi ma-identify mo yung mga gaps na ito pala yung mga hindi ginawa noon. So dapat ito yung gagawin nila in order to address, of course, to tackle this problem para hindi na siya mauulit-ulit sa mga susunod.
I would like to quote Ma'am Jessica Soho, no, dun sa isa sa mga segment na KMJS. Sinabi niya doon na hindi pala baha ang magpapalubog sa ating bayan, kundi kasakiman. Diba, nakakalungkot lang po na isipin na may budget, napakalaki ng inaalat na budget for flood control projects or ano pa mang proyekto ng ating pamahalaan. Unfortunately, ay napupunta nga ito sa bulsa ng mga taong ganit, sabi nga po nila, no, na sakim pagdating po sa pera. And it's a good thing ngayon na merong ongoing Senate hearing, ongoing investigation about these flood control projects, corruption, and the ghost projects. And hopefully ay meron po itong patutunguhan. And hopefully, sir, no, with all your ideas ay ma-share din talaga natin or makinig po ang ating pamahalaan sa inyong mga scientists, because you've been doing the groundworks and marami po talaga kayong karanasan at kaalaman na makakatulong po sa solusyon dito sa ating mga problema.
Sana hindi rin ini-involve yung mga scientists kapag may nangyaring sakuna. Kasi na-interview kami mga scientists pag may nangyari ng disasters, pag may nangyari ng mga ganitong sakuna. Pero from the very start, they should include us. They should engage us first. Hindi na yung pag may disaster, pag marami namatay, pag tagmahana, tsaka kami nakakatanggap ng itong mga klaseng interviews. Well, that's kaya nga pag nag-uusap-usap kami, I'm sure tatawag ng mga to kasi ang point namin, hindi kami ni-engage. So that's why in one of my articles, engage the scientists first. I mean, from the very start, you really have to engage them para to provide you and to recommend the best and the right solutions for a certain project. So hindi naman yung mga scientists naman, maraming pro bono katulad ko na they always provides recommendation and give advice for free. Maraming ganyan. Marami tayong magagaling na scientists sa Pilipinas na pwede magbigay ng magandang advice sa ating mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na sa mga leaders sa pamahalaan.
Lalo-lalo nga po, sir, kayo, ang dami niyo pong karanasan, ang dami niyo pong research, ang dami niyo din pong proyekto na hopefully the government, our leaders will also consider that, engage the scientists first. Of course, we don't want to rely solely sa ating pong pamahalaan, sa ating government officials, sa ating mga eksperto, because we want also to be part of the solution. As Filipino citizens, how can we be part of this solution? Ano po ba yung maiaambag ng bawat isa, kahit yung mga ordinaryo pong mamamayan po ng ating bansa?
Yeah, thank you, Lilia. Napaka-importante yan. Doon sa mga pinupuntahan namin, lalo sa mga farmers, area ng mga farmers, fisher, indigenous people, youth, women, PWDs, yan. Tapos even the church leaders. Nasabi nila na we're not scientists, Glenn, how it's very hard to address this impact. Sinasabi ko lang naman, ang lagi namin sinasabi na, you don't have to be a scientist like me, or you don't have to be, a top-notch scientist to make a difference. I mean, you start with, regardless of your background, regardless of your educational attainment, if you really want to help, you just have to put your heart on it. For example, magsimula ka sa iyong pamayanan, sa iyong community. So, simpleng bagay lang, pagtatapon ng basura. So, kung ikaw, are you part of the solution or are you the one who's causing that particular problem? Yung mga ganung bagay, simple lang, pero it's impactful. So, you can start with that. Kung hindi mo kaya, you can ask your friends, you can bring some of your friends who want to be part of that particular advocacy. Then, You talk to your barangay captain, you talk to the other community leaders who are going to support you. Now, kung wala, kasi na-experience namin yan, kung walang gustong tumulong, just go on. Uh, gumawa ka ng bagay, parang i-prove mo muna sa kanila na tama yung gagawin yung desisyon sa pag-address ng isang problema. At pag nakita na ng maraming tao, susuportahan na nila yan. Kasi sometimes, people will only believe once they see the results. Alright? Once they see the results. So, hindi ka makakakuha ng support hanggat hindi nila nakikita na meron kang output. So, may mga ganong scenario. So, kung walang tutulong, you can do it on your own. Identify the right people who are going to support your advocacy, then produce results. And once people see these impactful programs, I'm telling you, you will be able to get their buy-in and you will be able to get the support that you deserve.
All right. The truth is, sir, every Filipino has a role to play. Kailangan lang din po talaga ng disiplina at pagmamahal po sa ating bayan, sa ating kalikasan.
Totoo yan. At higit sa lahat, always think people, yung sa amin sa Climate Smart Philippines sa ECCRI, service to environment, service to the people and environment is service to God. Kung yung totoong serbisyo, kung iisipin mo, lagi mo isipin yung tao para hindi ka mag-iisip ng kasakiman, hindi ka mag-iisip ng masama. Kung lagi sa mga proyekto mo, lagi mo isa sa alang-alang ang kabuhayan ng mga tao, ang buhay ng mga tao, hindi ka makakagawa ng hindi maganda. Yun lang, Lilian.
Maraming salamat sa iyong time. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Glenn Banaguas, a world-renowned science diplomat and multi-awarded scientist, a recipient of the UN Sasakawa Award for Disaster Risk Reduction. Mabuhay ka, sir.
Maraming salamat, Lilian, at mabuhay din ang ating mga kababayan. At maraming salamat po.